So please welcome Zuzana Kunckova.
Wow, okay. Hello, everybody. So I need to take a breath because that's a lot. I love being at Laracon. Laracon, or all the Laracons, are really special to me because they are not just another tech conference. They are the place where I go to meet friends, place where I get to spend time with people I actually like. So being here, standing in front of you, and getting to talk to you about PHP functions of all the topics, it's really special to me. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. Right. Yeah. So before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Zuzana Kunckova. I am a PHP and Laravel developer, course creator, and content creator. I'm also the Larabelles founder. I'm going to talk about Larabelles in just a moment. You can follow me on all these links there, which is first is Blue Sky, then Twitter, my website, and then Larabelles. If I were a little bit cool, I would have made a nice QR code. But I'm not cool, and I don't know how to do it, so that's what you've got. And Larabelles, I mentioned Larabelles. So Larabelles is a community for PHP and Laravel developers who are underrepresented due to their gender. Now, if you look around yourself, you'll notice that most of you are men. And it's not just this audience, it's every tech conference, every tech audience I've ever been to or ever seen. That's because tech is a male-dominated industry. So I made Larabelles for the rest of us, for those that are not as represented as you are. And what we do, we are a support network, which means we are there for people who need us. We send people to conferences, do giveaways, and as a support network, we're trying to make sure that nobody's ever alone. If you go to a conference or to a meetup, that you never feel alone. So that if there are people in the same country, we kind of tell them, did you know that you there? So, connect people across the world. And yeah, we've got our Discord channel, we've got our website. And even if you don't think that Larabelles is for you, one thing I would like to ask of you today is to talk about Larabelles, to talk to your colleagues, to your friends, to your family, to people who will listen, and those who maybe don't want to listen, because you never know, maybe you will spark something in them, and they will realize, you know what, I want to check them out. I want to check out Larabelles, I want to check out Laravel, and it will benefit us all. So please talk about us. And not only that, during this conference, we are running a giveaway. So the amazing Chris, oh my God, the surname, sorry Chris Morrell, he decided to donate a Laravel hoodie and a hat to somebody. So this is a QR code that he made, by the way, because he's cool, I'm not cool. So he knows how to do it. If you click on that, or if you point your phone at that, it will take you to Larabelles PayPal Me website, where you can donate any amount you feel you can donate. And this will run until tomorrow, when Chris will give his talk about your first PR. He's doing his talk at 10 o'clock. So by the end of his talk, we will stop it, and then we will draw a random person from whoever donates it, and we announce the winner later. So please donate if you can. And as I said, share it. Wide. I mean, really, only people here can, I'd like everyone to donate, but only people here can get the hoodie and the hat. So please do. Right, so let's talk about PHP functions.
Hello. I'm Dr. Sheldon Cooper, and welcome to the premiere episode of Sheldon Cooper Presents Fun with PHP Functions.
So, thank you, Sheldon. I've always been a little bit worried. Again, this is Kaneko's work. I'm not at school, I don't know how to do this. I asked Kaneko, can you do your magic? And he did, he delivered. So I was a little bit worried that maybe people haven't watched Big Bang Theory. If you didn't, I encourage you to do so. It's like Friends for nerds. I find it funny, and check them out. I think you might enjoy it too. This talk, I hope, it's not going to be your average talk about PHP functions, about, what is array merge, or what's the difference between echo and print R, and whether it's needle first and then haystack, or haystack first and then needle. What I did is I pulled out functions that I find interesting and weird, and I'd like to share them with you. Maybe you will find them interesting and weird as well. So this is what I'm going to try to do. And in a way, I'm going to take you through a journey of the hidden and amazing world of PHP functions. Right, let's start with Levenstein. First disclaimer, I keep calling it Liechtenstein. I don't know why. So if I say it wrong, I do apologize. This is what I mean. And the other thing is, for years as a PHP developer, I didn't know this existed. I had no idea this function existed. And the first time I read the name, I was like, that doesn't even sound right. Like, why would there be a function with this name? And then today, in one day, you would have heard about it twice. What are the chances? And I promise, we didn't talk with Diana. This is the second time we both give a talk, the ones we did today. And again, I come after her the second time. And I'm like, at least like next time I could do it first, and then she talks about it later. But anyway, so Levenstein is a function that measures the distance between two words. And a funny story, I once did an interview for a job, and I was asked about this function during that interview. I was asked, how would you measure distance between two words? And I was, what? Like, what? What do you mean, like, on the line? How many characters are? Like, I did not understand. But this is exactly what the function does. It measures the distance between words, but not on a line, but how many single line or single character edits you have to do to get from one word to another. So for example, if you've got two words, kitten and smitten, how many edits do we have to do? And by edits, I mean insertions or deletions or substitutions. Do you have to do to get from one word to another? So what do you think is the answer to this? What's the Levenstein distance? Anyway, anyone? 2, very good, well done. So because we have to go from K to S and I to M, and we got smitten out of kitten. Now let's a little bit more complex. What is the Levenstein distance between Symfony and Laravel? Anyone? Yeah. I mean, have you heard of this function before? Because like you're spoiling my fun a little bit. Yes, it's 7, because you have to replace every single character, basically. So this is Levenstein. The next function I want to talk about is soundex, which is a function that is also related to comparing strings, similar to Levenstein, but what it does, it calculates the soundex key of a string based on how the word sounds. So this can be used in database searches when you, for example, searching for a word, you don't know how it's spelled, but you know how it sounds, or when there are two words that sound the same but are spelled differently. Let's have a look at an example. We've got two words, by as in this book was written by somebody, and by as in goodbye. If we pass this into soundex, it will return a soundex key, which is a 4-character string, beginning with the initial letter. So it will begin with B and then some number. So if we run this through PHP, the answer will be B000 for both of these words. So to soundex, these two words are the same because they sound the same, therefore they are the same. If it looks like a duck or looks like a duck, it's a duck. Now, who knows, hold on, no, spoiler, who knows what might happen if you passed in an empty string to the soundex function? Anyone? Please don't tell me you managed to read it, because that would... Okay. So, prior to the PHP version 8.0, what did I do? Okay. Calling this function with an empty string returned false for no particular reason. And what I love is that whoever writes, this is on php.net, okay? This is not some random website. That's the official PHP documentation. Whoever wrote this, they could have just said nothing. They could have just said, prior to this version, calling this function with an empty string returns false. Full stop. Or they could have made something up. They could have said, you know, some elaborate reason why it's happening. But no, they just said, no reason whatsoever. This is just what it does. And I love it because, and also they could have removed it from documentation. No, stays there. So this is amazing. If you call it with an empty string for any later PHP versions, the newer ones, it will return 4 zeros, as you would expect. So another function which is similar to soundex is the metaphone function, which does basically the same thing. It returns the metaphone key, but it's a little bit more clever than soundex because it knows the rules, the basic rules of English pronunciation. So if we use the same example, it will now return two different keys, B and BY, because according to metaphone, it does know the difference between these two words. And when I first learned about it, I was like, how does it know? Like, what is this magic? And It's not really that magical. What it does, it goes through a section of steps, like I think 7 steps or 8 steps, where it first converts removes all the non-character, non-letter characters. Then it converts everything to uppercase. And then, for example, you've got 2 examples. It will get rid of the silent E at the end of example, or if there are 2 words that have like a phonetic equivalent, such as PH, that will turn into F. So these are then the metaphone codes. When you try really hard, I mean, example, kind of, it sounds like example, and pharmacy, kind of like pharmacy. So it makes sense, kind of. And so the reason I know that is because I looked at the PHP implementation. So PHP is written in C. And I went and looked up the source code. And I would like to encourage everyone to have a look. Because if you're learning about some function or you don't quite understand what it does, and PHP docs are not that helpful, go and check it out. Because even though it's written in C, you don't need to know C to understand what's going on. And when I read the very long function, where implement the metaphone function, it turns out that it's just a really long switch statement, which is very well documented. So they do say, when you do run this, this is what happens. And when you do this, this is what happens. And some for loops and if statements. So really, it's not that magical at all. It's just really cleverly done. But it's not magical. So as I said, if you are learning something and you're struggling with understanding, just check out the source code, because even though if it's written in C, it doesn't matter, you can understand it. And there is an interesting comment on the php.net website from about 20 years ago, as they are. And there was somebody using the Levenstein function to measure this distance between 2 metaphone keys. And I wish I knew what came out of that, because it seems like a really good idea. Right, last function that compares strings is similar text. So while soundex and metaphone, they both compare text based on a phonetic similarity, similar text doesn't care about any of that. It compares strings based on matching characters. Again, something that Diana mentioned earlier today. Again, we look at our good old example, by and by. How many matching characters are between these 2 words? 2, easy peasy. Yes, because you've got by, and the E is extra. Now, the fun part is when you pass in a third argument, %, and this will give you the percentage of how similar these 2 words are. So how many % do you think these 2 words are similar? Shout out loud. You're all wrong. It is 80, because the way they calculate it, they take the number of matching characters, which is 2, divided by the average number of words, or the average number of characters, which is 2.5, and then multiply it by 100, and that's 80. And again, until you look it up, this looks like, yeah, it makes sense. When I first saw the 80, I was like, where did you get 80? I thought it was 66 something. But yeah, this is how they calculate it. So this is similar text. And yeah, I think it's enough about comparing text or strings, and let's look at something more cryptic, which is str.13. I'm not quite sure how to say it out loud. I don't know how you have the same problem when you write the functions, but you never actually say them out loud. And when you then ask to say them out loud, you're like, this sounds wrong. So str.13 stands for rotate 13, or rotate by 13 characters. And this function performs a simple Caesar cipher. What it does, it will take a letter and it will replace it by 13 letters down the line. Why 13? Because there are 26 letters in the English alphabet, and 13 is alphabet. So when you run a string through this function twice, you will first encrypt it and then decrypt it again. So here we've got it's in Amsterdam, which is because it is. It's lovely. I love it. So if you pass it into it first time and the second time, what you will get is first you'll get the encrypted string, and then you'll get it back the original way. Now, you can have a lot of fun with this function. You can use it to build games or some sort of quiz. You can hide semi-sensitive text. Like, I wouldn't use it for something really sensitive, like maybe a movie review or, spoilers. But please don't use it to encrypt your passwords, because that would not be a good idea. Don't do that. Take it from me. Not that I did it, but, Right, now since we've established that it's been sunny in Amsterdam, there's another function that PHP comes with, and which is the dateSunInfo function. This function returns an array of, you will pass in the date, latitude, and longitude of a place, of a location. It will return information about the sunrise, sunset, the sun's zenith, when the sun is at its highest, and all the twilights, which is amazing. Again, it's a native PHP function. Now, before I show you what it does, I want to talk about twilights, because did you know there are 3 different twilights? There is the civil twilight that begins between the sun is between 0 and 6 degrees below horizon. Then there is the nautical twilight, which is between 6 and 12 under the horizon, and then the astronomical 12 to 18 degrees, and then it's just pure night. And the reason I'm telling you this is because PHP gives you all this information. So this is latitude and longitude of Amsterdam, today's date, and this is how we pass it into the date info, and this is the array we get back. I mean, admittedly, I don't understand, because it returns Unix timestamp, and I don't know about you. You might look at it and know, I don't know. It's just a bunch of numbers to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull out the sunrise information, and I'm going to wrap it in the date method to get it like a human-readable format. And today, the sun rose at 7:15:38 here in Amsterdam. And as I said, we can also get the zenith, which is when the sun was at its highest, which was at 11:54:09. So I think this is a lovely, again, PHP function that you may not have known it existed. Don't quite know how you would use it. I mean, I'm sure there are use cases. But yeah, interesting to me. Well, talking about sunrises and sunset, who knows when Easter will be in any given year? Again, it's a very important thing to know if you are doing like PTA quizzes or pub quizzes, because PHP has a function for that, Easter date. Now, if you don't pass anything in, it will return the date of the current year. So again, I'm going to format a little bit, because otherwise it would be a Unix timestamp. So this year, it will be on the 20th of April. But you can pass in any year in the future, and it will give you the date. And I did check on Google, and it was accurate, so I would like to think that it's right. Now, talking about dates, check date. Who knew about check date? So this function, again, this is all based on my experience, and maybe I'm just you will think I'm dumb, but I don't know which one has got 30 days, which one is 31. I just don't know. And I know there are these things you can count your knuckles, or there are sayings. I don't get it, I don't know. But I don't need to know, because there is a function for that. When you pass in month, day, and year, it will, and then you do some sort of, say if it's valid, if it's true, say real, otherwise it's not real, it will tell you whether the date is real. Now, be careful. You have to pass in month, then date, then year. It's the American way, not the sensible way. So just be careful. If you got to do it the other way around, you won't get what you expect. So the 31st of February, was it real? Was it not real? It was not real. So again, a very useful function in my opinion, because that's what I do. Instead of checking Google, I just go into some, REPL or Tinkerwell and just use PHP, because that's what we do as developers. Now we looked at the dates, let's look at calendars. Because you might think, why am I talking about calendars? It's a PHP functions talk, what has it got to do with calendars? Well, quite a lot, because, don't know if you knew, but there are over 40 calendars in use today, different calendars. So we are probably using, all of us, the Gregorian calendar, which is the one that we use here in Europe, UK, US. But there are so many others. So there's the Islamic Hijri, there is Hebrew, there is Coptic. There are so many different calendars. And they all come with their own ways of doing things, their own ways of calculating stuff. And like the Gregorian has got the leap year, which I still don't know where it is. So there are different calendars in use today, over 40. And PHP, of course, has a different calendar functions, because why not? But before we get to calendars, who knows what Julian day count is? Did I hear yes? Well, Julian day count is a day in the past where somebody decided there was a date from which they will start counting days in continuous fashion, like non-stop, like day after day after day after day. It's a way to count number of days from a specific time in history. And the time in history was the 1st of January, 4713 BCE, before Common Era. Very specific dates for some reason, and not only that, it's from noon on that day. And from what I understand, it has some historical reasons and something historical, like ancient chronology and astronomy. It was a really special day, that day. So they decided from today we're going to be counting. And you might wonder why don't we just use all our calendar? And that's the thing, we can use our calendar, and we do. But all those 40 different calendars have their own quirks, And sometimes you just need to know the number of days from a certain time. And the Julian day count is actually used in science a lot, in astronomy, in paleontology, even in like other scientific fields, including computer science. And the thing is, because normal calendars, they are cyclical, they have repeating units, days, weeks, months, and years, and they keep doing, well, this one is just day after day after day. And why am I talking about it? Because PHP has a function for that. We can take a Unix timestamp and convert it to Julian day count. If you don't pass anything in, it will again take today's date. So today's date is 2,460,710 days since the day 4,700 years ago, which to me seems like it should be a bigger number for some reason. I thought it was more than 2 million days passed, but this is what it is. And you can convert to Julian day from all the others. So this was for Unix timestamp, but you can use Gregorian date, and then you can do the vice versa. Again, be careful because you will, hold on, too fast. You have to pass in the month, day, and year. Again, the weird American way. Please, if somebody understands why, explain it to me, because it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you start with month and then go like a smaller unit, then go to bigger unit, and go, no, anyway. So find me and explain it to me later. So be careful the way you pass information into these functions. And another thing about calendars is something to do with the French Republican, well, it's called the French Republican calendar, and it's a calendar that was used during the French Revolution, during the 1793 to 1805, only 12 years, okay? This calendar was used for 12 years, long time ago. And it has a function in PHP. Like, I don't know why. Like, I would love to know who implemented it and why. What was the use case that it got a function in PHP? Like, now when you see all those proposals for the new PHPs, you know, people have to vote about things that go in. Did anyone vote for this? Like, I mean, again, please educate me, tell me, because I don't know. I would love to know. So again, you can convert it back and forth. And there are more functions that I didn't mention. Yeah. So that's calendars. So now we've talked about string comparisons, sunrise, sunset, Easter, checking dates, calendars. So let's end on a high note, which is time zones, because who doesn't love time zones? Oh, I forgot to say, actually, let me go back to the story I mentioned about Levenstein, how I interviewed, and I didn't know what the function was. I didn't get the job for some reason. I don't know if it was because of the function that I didn't know what Levenstein was. Deep down, I think it was, because, you know. But it's not going to happen again, because I know what it is, and now you all know what it is. So if anyone asks you what Levenstein is, just now you'll know it's, you know, Levenstein distance algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But talking about time zones, the reason I mention this is because, again, I once booked a call, which was either with a client or job interview again. And instead of booking it for 2 p.m. my time, I accidentally booked it for 2 a.m. my time. So imagine my surprise when I woke up in the morning and there was like a bunch of emails saying, we are ready whenever you are. And 10 minutes later, we're still waiting. And then about half an hour later, oh, we've just checked what time it is where you are. We don't think you were meant to book it for this time. Never mind, let's rebook. I didn't get that job or client. It must seem that I am totally unemployable. I do have a job now, you know. They didn't ask me about time zones, luckily, and so, but I can get a job, I promise you. But I'm sure I'm not the only one struggling with time zones, because time zones are bloody complicated, and they don't make any sense. And you will understand, because if I ask you, okay, yes, how many time zones do you think are recognized by PHP? Or how many time zones do you think there are in general? Anyone knows? Basically, too many. The problem is, like, it's really difficult to establish official time zones because they depend on so many different factors. Historical factors, political factors, they are all this. It's a big mess we don't want to get into. But there is, somebody says 28, somebody says like 32. There is no official number or number of official time zones. But then we've got a method in PHP, which is an alias for the date time zone list identifier method. And what this method will return is the list of time zones that are recognized by PHP. So try again. So what do you think, how many time zones PHP recognizes? Let's be really like, try. Be inclusive. Give it your best. So again? 280. Try again. 100+. Well, it is 100+. It is Hold on, so this is how I get it. Sorry, print art, let's get a nice array. 418 time zones in PHP. And the reason there are so many is because PHP is really super inclusive, which is why I like it, because it recognizes all the current time zones, alternative time zones, deprecated time zones, historical. It just, anything goes. It's a time zone, we like it. So now I don't feel as bad about messing up my call or not really knowing, keep checking like what time is it in US now, and West Coast, East Coast, and the Middle Coast. Like, I don't feel as bad anymore, you know, it's just too many time zones. Who could, you know, who can be surprised? So I think that was most of the functions I wanted to mention. There are a few more, well, there are many more that I should have mentioned that I didn't, but there are just a few that are kind of cute. So pi, it's quite obvious what it does. It returns the value of pi, but who knows what chop does? Anyone? It's a really nice one. Chop is an alias for rtrim. So instead of, you know, rtrim removes the white spaces at the end of the sentence or line. So instead of trimming them next time, just chop them right off, because it's so much cooler. So that's all from me. I would like to thank you for listening, and I hope, you know, PHP, people say bad things about PHP all the time, and we all complain about the 20-year-old comments because, you know, it's kind of weird. But at the end of the day, PHP has such a long and rich history, and I think including the 20-year-old comments, it's really good to see how people were involved in it, how people worked towards making it better, and it's lovely to see that we actually see the progression, that it's not like from today PHP sees this, and whatever happened before doesn't exist. No, I actually appreciate that we can see the progression of the language and its community and ecosystem, including all the lovely frameworks that came out, like Laravel. So next time we all code PHP and there is a function that maybe doesn't make much sense to us, maybe let's be a little bit, you know, thankful that we have it, and be thankful and grateful for the developers that came before us, that work on the language so it's the way it is right now. Thank you very much, and like I said, please donate. I'm scared.
Yeah, it's working. Don't be. You know what's going to happen, right?
Anonymous
Someone's going to try to find on Laravel the rtrim function, and they'll PR the chop.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. Thank you for that.
Anytime.
Good talk.
Thank you.
Do you have fun?
I did. I mean, I was a little bit worried that maybe you will not find these functions as interesting / weird, funny as I did. And maybe you use them all the time. Most of you, some of you, I don't know. But these were the functions that, you know, spoke to me. So I hope you had fun. You know?
Great job. So I got a couple of questions.
Yes.
So Jeff, he's asking, is there a native PHP function to get a romantic date?
Oh, do you know what? I bet there is something if you look through the documentation. I don't know.
Should we talk to the PHP Foundation?
We should. Yeah, let's do the RTF. Is it what it's called, RTF? Like when they vote about new...
They're around the place.
Yeah, whatever.
We need to get the hang of it.
Let's get that in. I mean, come on. We've got the Julian Day calendar. We've got the French Revolution, French calendar in there.
Screw the French Revolution.
This would be actually useful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next question.
Yes.
If you could poll yourself a fun PHP function, would you do it?
Oh, I don't know.
And which one? This question is from Fer.
So my...
Funny PHP function that you can add it to PHP.
I don't know. Do you know, now that I've gone through the documentation many times, I kind of think a lot of them are already there. I don't know. I'm
Something to solve the time zones? Just chop?
I don't think that's solvable. Honestly, I think time zones, it's just let's like forget about it. Because that's too much.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe the romantic relationship would be nice, like to find love. We all want to find love.
The answer is 14th of February. It's coming up. Set a date.
This was not planned, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you again, Zuzana.
Thank you.
Big applause for Zuzana.